Well, hello. We are back to where it all started. We're back in the original studio, if you will. It's not much of a studio. It's more like my dining room table. You may recognize my one decoration I have on this wall that you can see. The bison print from my grandpa. So I should introduce the podcast, I guess. This is the Colonel and the Kid podcast, and I'm Greg Heitmann, the kid of the Colonel and the Kid podcast. And the Colonel is my grandpa, and I was just mentioning the decoration here. This is one of Grandpa and Grandma's prints they had at their house, and it's an etching by Paul Warcloud, and it's signed and personalized, I guess, in the corner there. But, anyway, the reason I'm in this part of the studio, quote unquote studio, is that I'm dog sitting again, and the dog is out in the backyard and can see me through the patio window over here. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube video, I'm pointing out. You can see that I'm pointing out there, but for those not watching it, I'm indicating towards the window where the dog is, and the dog is very whiny, and if it can't see me, it starts throwing a little fit and barking and whining and crying. And even if it can see me, it will still whine a little bit. But right now it's busy chewing a bone, and it can look in here and see me. And if in my back room studio where she can't see me, then she'll be barking and carrying on and causing a hassle. And it bothers me because then I want to stop it. I don't want to bother the neighbors with her barking. So here I am. I changed up my little studio today to be able to podcast with the dog in the backyard and not disturb anybody. But she's got a bone she's chewing on and occupying her time there. Finally, she settled down a little bit. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. Like I said, Colonel and the Kid podcast, Greg Heitmann, your host. And most of you know by now that this podcast is dedicated to my grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagan Jr., my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather. And this is a very special episode because this is episode 30, and it's really what I consider the halfway point of the whole memoir itself. So there's going to be like 60 chapters, and this is chapter 30, episode 30. And it's called The Webster Basketball Game. And kind of just out of context there in the title. It'll make sense once I start reading it. And today we'll get that read into the record with audio and visual recording, digital audio, digital video. And so it'll be not only put on paper with the memoir, it'll be a podcast and available electronically forever in the cloud, hopefully. So a little bit about the podcast, I guess, too. And most of you know by now, if you're listening, that this is a memoir about my grandfather and me and our relationship and how it helped build me up, I guess, and made me who I am today. That's what I like to say. And also the whole memoir serves as like a bit of psychotherapy, if you will, just analyzing myself and how I got here and just be more introspective and more able to notice my own traits and improve on them and just, just be aware, be more self-aware, I guess. So I encourage everyone to do that. It's a good exercise. Helps you feel like you're mentally organizing, and which is a big plus when you're not organized physically in your space, in your house, in your rooms and stuff. To be mentally organized, that helps a lot. Gives you a good feeling. Anyway, I'm going to call this season 2, episode 10 of the Colonel and and the Kid podcast, because the first season of the podcast was episodes 1 through 20, and now we're on the second volume, season 2, and so far we're on episode 30. So I consider this the halfway point, like I said, of the whole total memoir. Should be 60 chapters eventually done, and making progress, slow and steady. But this is a good chapter. This is a good, I'm not going to say pinnacle, and goes downhill from here. I hope that's not the case, but this is a good point in the slope that's trending upward as far as the story goes. The culmination of well, it's not the culmination. It's working towards the culmination of the whole memoir itself, as it keeps going up and up. It's better and better for a big cliffhanger at the end. No, I don't think there's any cliffhanger. Not yet, anyway. We'll see. That's a tease. So anyway, let's get the chapter read into the record. Go from there. I do have some other recurring segments I'd like to touch on today. Should be interesting. It's a little interesting day yesterday, so put that into the electronic record also. My adventures or misadventures, whatever you want to call them. We'll talk about them. So, like I said, chapter 30, Colonel and the Kid podcast. Chapter 30, the Webster Basketball Game. And as always, I'd like to start the chapter with a quote. And today's quote, be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. End quote. And that's John Wooden. And being that this chapter is called the Webster Basketball Game, I thought it'd be good to have premier coaches of basketball history, John Wooden, have one of his quotes on there. He was a prolific writer and educator and a legendary coach from UCLA. When they win 11 college championships during the 60s and into the 70s. I don't know if it was into the 70s, but they won a lot of championships and had a lot of good teams. And again, like I said, a legendary coach. And since this is about basketball in some respects, I thought it'd be good to quote him. So, all right, let's get into the chapter. Why we remember certain events with vividness is the mystery I hope Elon Musk will solve for the next generation. I haven't researched much about Neuralink, but Musk's endeavor to link the human brain to computer may be the step to help people live forever. All your memories and your associated personality perfectly preserved for everyone to review via a punch of a button. Elon Musk is a bona fide genius, the founder of Tesla Incorporated, the revolutionary electric car company, as well as SpaceX, which is the United States astronaut and satellite transport company. I'm not going to doubt Elon Musk's ability to pull this off. If this is done, then we are right there with being able to capture your dreams and record them on a hard drive during the night with the opportunity to be able to review them the next day. Cool, yes. But I think of the pending disaster that awaits when all your thoughts can be recorded. Eventually, everyone will be canceled because of what they thought. Why do I bring any of this up? Good question. And I will answer it this way. I'm not sure why I remember a run-of-the-mill conference basketball game at one of our regular foes' gym. Actually, I do remember why it was special. In February 1987, in the Webster Armory, I scored a personal high points for a single varsity basketball game. 23 points. Wow, you sarcastically shout out loud as you read this. That brings us to the first photograph of the chapter. And I'll read the caption here and then try to describe it a little bit. Caption reads, photo of Greg, number 31, flying through the air trying to block a shot against Millbank player Paul Pashong, number 22. This occurred in the Class A regional tournament in Watertown, South Dakota in February 1987. The photo appeared in the Watertown Public Opinion newspaper. Todd Kruger follows on the right side of the photo, with the Groton cheerleaders and the crowd in the background. This is one of my favorite photos from high school. Back in the old days, you could contact the newspaper and request a copy of the photo. Somebody did that for me, and I ended up with a photo that still hangs on my wall in my guest bedroom. It may have been Grandpa that led the effort to get me the photo. Grandpa's and Grandma's daily paper was the Watertown Public Opinion. I can picture Grandpa seeing the photo in the paper, making a phone call, and traveling the 60 miles to Watertown to pick it up. It is a classic. And so I'll try to describe it here. And I don't even say this in the caption, but this is from a basketball game when I was a senior in high school. And this was a semifinal for the region championship to go to the advance to the championship of the region and play in the state basketball tournament for the Class A schools. And it was down in Watertown, South Dakota. And you can see me, I'm flying through there, taking a swing at the ball as the guy's going up for a layup on a fast break. I missed. I didn't block it. It didn't foul him or anything. And I don't know if he may have made the basket. I don't remember. So if I had Elon Musk's Neuralink, maybe we could tap into my mind and we could actually remember or see if I remembered if it was made, or maybe I would know subconsciously that it was a made or a missed basket, and we could just analyze the whole game from there. But anyway, this was the last competitive game of my career because we lost this game and then played in, just the third place game for the region, which was irrelevant because it wasn't going to do anything for you as far as advancing to the state tournament. And that was the last game. And I played like half that game because they let seniors start and then took everybody out and let the younger players play in that last game of the year for us. And that was against Siston, South Dakota. That ended my high school career of basketball. But anyway, it's a very awesome photo to have, or it's very awesome just to have this photo as part of my memory book. And it's an old fashioned classic photo because you got the foreground, you got the action of the players, and it looks like I'm just like way up in the air. It looks like I'm probably like flying through the air 3 feet off the ground, kind of like hurtling through the air. And in the background is kind of out of focus, soft focus in the background. And you can see some of the cheerleaders there, some of the crowd. I don't remember, where my parents were sitting. Maybe they're there and they're just kind of blurred out a little bit. And then way at the right side of the photo, you can just barely see Todd Kruger. He's mostly cut off in the photo. It's kind of funny to see that. Probably don't even notice him unless you really start to look at the photo. But good composition by the photographer. I don't think I even knew who the photographer was. And it would be interesting too. I guess I don't know what think I have a copy of the article and the actual newspaper photo, a cutout of the newspaper itself. That'd be interesting to see if I do have that in my scrapbook that my mom has in a box. I still have that box. I haven't gone through it, and I'll do that sometime. And maybe when I have a future podcast, we can go back through some of these chapters. And I think I've mentioned that before about reviewing these chapters and making some additions and corrections and just expanding on some of the stories there. But I will say it's an awesome photo. I'm wearing my black Groton High School number 31 uniform. And back in those days, you had the away team wore black, the darker color, black or the dark, and you had the odd number. And then the home team wore the lighter color uniform, and they were even numbers to help simplify it for officiating and everything else. I don't think they do that now. I think that just everyone has the same number all the time, dark or light uniform. And I have some my Adidas basketball shoes, and I can see them kind of plain as day. My high top Adidas basketball shoes; those are some good shoes. So, anyway, back to the chapter. I played pretty well in that basketball game in Webster, yet we lost, as we did almost every game that year. We finished with a 4-18 record for the season, but it was probably the most fun I ever had playing sports. I had much more success and accolades in track and field. Even baseball brought me much more accomplishment and wins. And here we have another photo, second photo of the chapter, and I'll read the caption and then describe it. Caption reads, another favorite photo of mine that still holds a place in the wall in my guest bedroom. Me holding the state Class A team championship trophy for the 1986 state track meet. Especially fun is my teammate Kevin Tullis with an early photobomb waving at the camera behind me as he stands behind me. The camera's in front of me, taking me from the front, and he's photobombing me, so to speak. I medaled in 2 events, 4th in triple jump and 5th in the 1,600-meter relay. That 5th place finish by a relay team of me, Troy Tennis, Rich Strum, and Todd Herseth still holds the school record for the 1,600-meter relay. I'm not sure who took this photo, but I sure do cherish it. And, to talk about the photo, who took it, I think it was my dad took it. This was the state track meet was over. You can see the people are leaving in the background, and so the people were able to come out onto the track because that was the last event. We ran the last event. The 1,600-meter relay was the final event of the day, and we ended up 5th place. And then we got on the podium and got to hold the great big trophy, and it's like the championship trophy. It's cut out in the shape of the state of South Dakota. It's got like a runner, little statue of a runner affixed to it, like crossing the finish line in a running race, and pretty cool. And we got the generic Groton white tank top track uniform, and I'm holding my sweatpants in my hand, I guess, because that was the last race, and I ran in the last race and was still cooling down from that. And that was out in Spearfish, South Dakota. It's pretty good, pretty fun memory to have the championship like that in my records, I guess. So, and a great picture, and pretty cool early photobomb too. So, anyway, like that picture. Oh, and then there's another picture here. I'll read the caption and then describe it a little bit here. Caption reads, state champs of the Class B VFW Veterans of Foreign Wars Teener Baseball Tournament in 1983. Back row, left to right, Coach Frank Cutler, Darren Locke, Jason Yeski, Vince Gower, Jeff Larson, Mark Rosso, Colin Hobbs, Wade McKittrick, John James, Shane Schmig. Front row, left to right, Greg Heitmann, Troy Doden, Clayton Butch Farman, Jared Prather, Jamie Rosso, Mike Blackman, Paul Baumgartner, Terry Amon, in the front row, Bat Boy Garrett Heitmann. So, of course, Garrett Heitmann, my younger brother, he's the bat boy for our team that year, and that was down in the state Class B Teener Baseball Tournament was in Gregory, South Dakota that year, and we were the champs. It's a pretty awesome picture. It's pretty sure my dad took this picture, and it's at night under the lights of the baseball field and with a flash, and we're wearing our red and gray and white Teener baseball uniforms, and everyone's happy, holding up number 1 because we're the number 1 champion team that year. And I will say that we had a couple. It was different time. I don't know if they still do this in Teener baseball. So this is like 14 to 16-year-old kids playing Teener baseball, and one of the things they allowed back then, and like I said, I'm not sure if they still do it, is you could pick up 2 players from your region, and we got 2 players, Vince Gower from Eureka, South Dakota, and Terry Almond from Eureka, South Dakota. They were Vince was like a catcher, and Terry was a really good pitcher. Helped us win that championship, and um, pretty awesome. And I don't know. We all holding trophy. Everyone got a small trophy, and then we got a team trophy. So it's pretty cool. I won't say much more than that. I'll just get back to the chapter and get back to basketball. Back to the chapter, but it's basketball I love to play. And the confluence of events for the evening in Webster solidified one of my favorite memories of sports. Grandpa and Grandma, unbeknownst to me, were in the Webster Armory that night to see me perform at the top of my game. Luckily, I didn't know they were there. Maybe that's why nobody told me until much later that they had come to the game. I don't know if Grandpa ever saw any of my other games my senior year. I was just glad he saw the Webster game. I never talked to Grandpa about it. My mom and dad always told me how proud they were of us, of me and my brothers, and all our accomplishments. Grandpa was proud of me. I think he was reluctant to talk to me about it because I was shy and easily embarrassed by any attention given to me. I'm still shy. I don't blush at the drop of a hat, but I've learned to live with it and make myself enjoy things. Thankfully, I'm less embarrassed by my actions now. I can only dream of being the stoic Grandpa was when it came to sports. It's a much different time now, but I know the feeling of pride for relatives competing in high school sports. Through the magic of computers, the internet, and Facebook, I've been able to view my nephew and niece play their high school games and witness their accomplishments in South Dakota gymnasiums, all while sitting in my house in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I imagine the pride of their parents is tenfold compared to what I feel in seeing their children with grit, effort, and success on the hardwood. Unlike Grandpa and his discipline, I am still unable to curtail providing unsolicited advice via text on my cell phone. I have convinced myself that advice from an uncle 1,000 miles away is very valuable. The message I always try to share is that sports in high school should be fun. It is my wish for my nieces and nephews to have as much fun as I did playing basketball my senior year in high school. That means giving your all when you're on the floor and trying to win as a team. Emphasis on team. Doing what you have to do, knowing your role on the team, elevating others in pursuit of victory. These are the things that will leave you fulfilled, even if the scoreboard shows your team didn't win. You can know you were successful. That's how I interpreted Grandpa's influence on me. He had a pursuit of excellence in everything he did, including sports. You might win some games, but like John Wooden emphasized in his pyramid of success, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made an effort to become the best of which you are capable. So there's another photo here. And this is, I'll read the caption and then talk about it. Caption reads, image of John Wooden's pyramid of success. So it's just a little pyramid of building blocks and labeled on there. Pyramid of success and trademark. And it's John R. Wooden, head basketball coach, emeritus, UCLA. And it's got, a bunch of different blocks with a label and then a little sentence about it. And it builds up to the shape of a pyramid with a base and then narrowing up to the top. And I'm just going to, you can look at the video and see that I'll put these photos into the video podcast. I'm just going to talk about the cornerstones and then the top. And the cornerstones are industriousness and enthusiasm. And then at the very top, it's competitive greatness. And I'm not going to read the other stuff on there. There's a whole bunch to read on there. And then it's got his definition of success and, how you can strive for it, I guess, is his formula, Coach Wooden's formula for success. And I think it's done very well. I think he did a great job of describing it and give him full credit for that. And I give due credit in the memoir that John Wooden gets credit for that and attribute that to his his writing skills and teaching skills. But back to the chapter. There's a recurring theme I've noticed with my words regarding Grandpa. I failed to have conversations that I now wish I had. The difficulty in accepting this is that no one is to blame. How could I have known at the time, given my youth and lack of experience, that these certain subjects would have made excellent learning exercises for me? At the minimum, I have recognized this shortcoming as a nearly universal issue in the world. I hope I'm able to have conversations with Angela's kids where I have anticipated some deeper questions that they may have not even begin to anticipate to ask. Sometimes I am, quote, at Captain Obvious in statements to her kids, bluntly attempting to facilitate a conversation that may address future issues that they will run into. It is my hope that they can use my experience to not have to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, I've noticed you can't tell anyone anything in hopes of explaining a solution. It seems to be a fact of life that the most crucial lessons are only learned the hard way through failure at your own level. This was a difficult chapter for me to write. Some things are better left unsaid. It's worth debating. There are a lot of words unsaid. There were a lot of words unsaid between Grandpa and myself. This truly is bittersweet to remember my own personal success in one basketball game, yet we still lost the game. At the same time, I never talked to Grandpa about how those contradictory feelings sit inside a person. The broken record that I am encourages you, the reader, just to talk to your loved ones. Push through the awkwardness, reminisce, break the ice with a smile and a joke. It gets easier. As I write these words, I'm promising myself that I will take my own advice, a lesson I'm sure Grandpa would endorse. There's a lesson here also when it comes to sports. Competition on the field, floor, or whatever the setting encapsulates life's trials and tribulations. It's a controlled laboratory where you can learn to deal with the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, similar to that of life, only on a microcosm. Test yourself with sports and try to live as the Why Didn't Kennedy advertising agency said when they coined the perfect phrase for Nike and participating in sporting competition. Quote, just do it. Period. End quote. So we had a quote to end there, but that's not the official end of the chapter until we have the official quote to complete the chapter. And this quote is appropriately from Michael Jordan and his affiliation with Nike. It seems very fitting. So Michael Jordan said this, quote, some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen. End quote. Great quote to end the chapter, the Webster Basketball Game. A favorite chapter of mine because I think it kind of epitomizes the Midwestern spirit, I guess, that I think of growing up in South Dakota and just looking at the other surrounding states of the Midwest and how sports play such a big part in young people's lives. And like I said, it goes a long way in giving you a trial and a test of your skill, resiliency when you lose, just being able to compete, picking yourself up when you get knocked down, suffering injuries and playing through them and knowing if you're really injured and you can't play, I guess. It's good life lessons. Like I said, I think the word I use is microcosm in the chapter. And it's just it's a perfect way to start understanding life, I think, through sports. And where I grew up in the Midwest, it was very much emphasized. I'm not sure how much it is everywhere else. Glad I was there. Glad I was able to do that and grow up in South Dakota and be able to play sports like that. So anyway, big chapter today. Big halfway point. The Webster Basketball Game. Got that into the record. So on to the recurring sections, I guess. Guess what? Here it is. Believe it or not, we found it. I don't know why I'm saying we. I found I had lost this. I'd gotten this book out. And if we were in the other studio, you could see that I would have the poster of this book. Big Cooley, a Charlie LeBeau mystery by Gregory L. Heitmann. So I'll go ahead and read the back summary into the record here so I can advertise myself a little bit. This podcast sponsored by Big Cooley, a Charlie LeBeau mystery. Bureau of Indian Affairs Police Sergeant Charlie LeBeau's morning break is interrupted when he notices a toddler alone at the edge of the grocery store's parking lot. Upon further investigation, Charlie discovers the child's mother dead in the tall grass just off the pavement. The woman appears beaten. Or was she hit by a car? Was it an accident or murder? So, I think this is the Big Cooley. The third book in the series, Long Hollow, Buffalo Lake, Big Cooley. So we're slowly going through the advertising process for each book. And right now, we're on Big Cooley. Check it out. Available through Amazon. You can get the Kindle version, or you can buy a hard copy. Or if you contact me, I can probably arrange to send you a signed copy. I have some extra copies here that I can mail out for a fee. Very, very reasonable. I'm very reasonably priced. So, all right, done with that advertising for today. I wanted to talk about, I don't really have a title for this segment, but this is what happened yesterday. This is, I'm just labeling it Bank of America because it was such a strange thing to me. I went for a walk in the morning. It was really pretty cool. It's been very, very mild winter. Yesterday got kind of a little bit chilly and it was some snow flurries, and I was walking on the rail trail near my house, or the commuter train runs from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, and there's a trail beside it. Just walking along there, and it was cold and windy, cloudy, dark gray day, and just going down this long sloping hill away from my house at the time, and there's this guy coming up the hill, and he's like, looks like a homeless guy. I don't know if he was homeless. I assumed he was homeless, and he didn't have a jacket. He was had wrapped himself in a sleeping bag, but it was so windy, the sleeping bag was fluttering like a cape, like Superman cape or something. And he was like disheveled and really thin and bearded. He looked like, he looked like Charles Manson. That's what he looked like to me. And I could hear some sirens in the distance. I looked over my shoulder, and there's a lot of sirens going off. And so I kind of looked back, and I couldn't really see anything from where I was. Although I was up higher on the hill, I couldn't see the streets and stuff. And so this guy's coming at me, walking on the trail. This Charles Manson looking guy, who I thought was homeless. And he comes up to me and is like, as we were getting closer, he's like, "What are you looking over your shoulder for?" I said, "Can you hear the sirens?" He goes, "Oh, what, you think they're after you?" And he's just like, all just scary aggressive. So I was like, kind of just trying to give him room to go by. So I'm friends with all the cops in this town. They love me. And it's just like very weird. And I was like, okay. And then he passed by me, and I walked a little further, turned around, and went home. And so I went home, but I had an errand to run. So I was going to pick up, I have some bonds U.S. government bonds that are maturing that I bought 20 years ago, and they're finally coming due. and I actually have the paper copies of them. So I'm taking them over to Bank of America basically once a week or every other week because I got them. I had ordered them as part of my paycheck, my monthly paycheck, or my bi-weekly paycheck was coming at the time 20 years ago. And I had purchased a $100 bond. You only paid $50. And then 20 years later, it's worth $100. So they're mature. So I was taking them over to cash them in and deposit them in the bank. So I had a few to take over, walked over to the bank, still cold and windy, and there was some snow flurries coming down. And as I'm going into the bank, I'm just getting to the bank and I see this guy coming out of the bank, and it's the guy wearing the the sleeping bag, and he's going down the handicap ramp, and I'm coming up the steps. And so I go into the bank and stand in line and wait forever. And I don't know. I'm not sure why I bank at Bank of America other than it's close. It's like 5 blocks away or so. So I can walk over there really conveniently, do any banking I need. It's been my primary bank for 20 years, 20 plus years since I lived in Santa Fe. And so I'm waiting in line and they have 2 tellers working and they have 3 people watching the 2 tellers, and there's a line, probably like 5 people waiting in line. And I'm not even sure what these other people are doing there at the bank. 2 people are greeting you at the door, asking what they can do for you today. And they say, yeah, what can we do for you? And I say, I'm getting deposit these bonds in my account. Oh, okay. They can help you right over there. It's like, it's just worthless. I mean, I don't know. Bank of America is just kind of embarrassing me. It's embarrassing that I use them as a bank because, for one thing, their interest rates are terrible. I should probably do better, but I'm a sucker for the convenience of having them right there, and I'm loyal for all this time for whatever reason. So anyway, I finally get up to the line, and there's one of the women's that was she. There's one woman that was, I guess, maybe training someone. I think that's why she was overseeing. She's one of the 3 people overseeing the 2 tellers that are working, and it's ridiculous. So I get up to the teller, and so it's a woman teller, and she's got the other woman watching over her. And I say, oh, I have some bonds. Oh, okay. And so the woman that's kind of supervising the other woman teller says, oh, come over here and I'll help you over in this window. And it's like, well, why couldn't they have done that to begin with so I didn't have to stand in line for 5 minutes? So anyway, she started helping me, and I've seen her there before, and she's just so, I guess, unhappy with her job. She's just basically non-responsive, and she has an attitude that seems like she's begrudgingly helping you do your banking, satisfy your banking needs. And if I get a survey from them, I am just going to rip into them saying, I don't understand how you guys are even functioning as a bank, because your customer service it's falling off a cliff. But anyway, so I got those bonds cashed in and deposited into my account. And then I asked her, when I was about to leave, I just turned back and asked her, did the guy with the sleeping bag, was he in here as a customer earlier? And she's looked at me like I was just such a jerk and just a person beneath even talking to. She was like just looking down at me. It's like, ugh, yeah, he's a customer. So, oh, really? I said I had a run-in with him on the trail earlier. He seemed like he's crazy to me. Oh no, he comes in about twice a week. It's like, okay. So, and she was just like, I think she was judging me, judge him. So it was, it was kind of like a competition judge off. And maybe I am making some assumptions about this guy, but the society seems like it's continuously just breaking down, where we just think that this is perfectly normal to be out walking around with a sleeping bag. you're wrapped up in a sleeping bag walking down the trail, and that's just everyday thing. Everything's fine here, nothing to see, and we're just plagued by homeless people in Santa Fe. And this guy made me uncomfortable because he was just so aggressively yelling at me and on the trail and stuff. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel safe in my own neighborhood. And so I I felt like she was just so disgusted by my even asking these questions about that. And it makes me wonder, who is the crazy person? It's got to be me. It's got to be me that's crazy for banking with Bank of America and the bad service and um, the bad interest rates that I've gotten over the past few years that I've accepted. It's my own fault for just staying with him. Should be shopping around and going to a different bank, but they make it difficult to change banks. So you got to do all this stuff. I mean, my direct deposit's been there for 20 years, but I guess ultimately it makes me question, who is the crazy person? Is it the guy, the homeless guy, or seemingly homeless guy, the Charles Manson looking guy, or am I the crazy person for continuing to bank at a place that accepts a guy walking into the bank wearing a sleeping bag as his jacket, I guess? So I'm going to say that I am not crazy. I'm not the same type of crazy as the guy wearing the sleeping bag. Maybe I'll just leave it at that. But maybe I should consider not banking there anymore, because if that's the guy that's come walking into your bank, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence that they're a good branch to be dealing with, I guess. So, you know, judge not lest ye be judged. So I guess maybe I am judging myself, and I'm judging that guy too, because the more and more we accept that crazy people just walking around among us is fine and dandy, the more we're going to be upset when we say, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" When the guy goes crazy and attacks somebody and kills someone or does whatever, and then we're just all upset because, how did this happen? No, we saw it happen in front of us for a long time and we didn't do anything about it. So maybe that's one of my remedies that I could take upon myself, is say, okay, I'm not going to do business with a bank that continues to act like that this customer base is just fine and dandy to have an unkempt guy come walking into the bank wearing a sleeping bag. It seems like you're just begging for problems. So anyway, I'll stop that segment. Maybe that'll be the new segment, Bank of America, and all the things that happen at Bank of America, starting with that first thing. So, and I don't think I talked about this, but I did have a music update, and if not, I think it's worth repeating that the music update here. I think I mentioned on a previous podcast during the football episode with Garrett and AJ as my guest podcasters, but this is a good music update. And if not, maybe this will be the third time I say it, but if it's still worth saying because I just totally enjoy it. So the other day we we're going to Albuquerque and we were listening to the radio, and the radio DJ was saying, yeah, that this next song, uh, there was a statistics compiled, and according to these statistics, this song, My Journey, is the number one song played on radios of all time. Number one song of all time, played on all radios across the world, across this nation, across the world. And that song is Don't Stop Believin'. That's the number one song of all time. And I turned to the people in the vehicle that were with me and I said, ironically, I don't believe them. So anyway, I thought that was a really good, ironic joke. And I don't know if it's um, uh, that might that might be more of the definition of irony than what I was going to say that I forgot to say about the Bank of America story. I mentioned that when I was walking and I ran into the guy wearing the sleeping bag that I heard these sirens, and I looked over my shoulder. There's all kinds of sirens in the distance. And I looked over my shoulder, and that's when the guy, the I call him Charlie Manson looking guy, was asking me what I was looking over my shoulder for. Just very confrontational manner, just just very aggressive. And later I found out, and I think it was about that time that there was breaking news, and there was a bank robbery at one of the banks in the area. It wasn't Bank of America where, where I ended up going, but a nearby bank had been robbed. And there's had a bank robbery that I've heard of in quite a while in Santa Fe. But sure enough, guy got away with thousands of dollars, I guess. Armed robbery of a bank. I don't know which bank it was. And I thought, man, is it ironic that that happened? And then I had this confrontation and with this guy, and then I asked the teller about it, and that was all awkward. Or was it just coincidence that that happened? That a bank was robbed in the area, the neighborhood. So anyway, I forgot to mention that in the previous Bank of America update. So I don't know if that's going to be a recurring segment. I don't know how many things can happen at a at Bank of America that would make it worthwhile to have the recurring segment of that. So I'm not gonna plan on that. But I will have I've been complaining about the podcasting studio that I've had for a while, and it seems like it's working fine right now. And hopefully it'll be I think it worked fine too the last time I did it, but man, I was having all these problems with it. I was saying glitches galore with this podcasting uh, side, riverside.com. That's the studio that I subscribe to, and it's not that expensive, but I do have to pay for the service. And man, they just have all these just services that they provide. And when I'm doing the podcast and recording it, they'll get a transcribe it. They'll make called magic clips, little short clips of the podcast, interesting things, and they'll summarize it, give me a summary and takeaways, keywords, and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool. I guess they use AI to do all that stuff, and it really does a pretty good job when it works. But it wasn't working there for a while, and it was just so annoying. I'd be waiting and waiting for this stuff, and it would never work. So I published a couple of podcasts without summaries, and then later I was able to get the summaries finally from this the my subscription from Riverside, but it was really annoying. But anyway, hopefully it's working now and I don't have these problems with the podcast itself. But I think that's I think that's where I'll leave it off today. Don't have don't have much else. I do have some I guess I do have a license to podcast personalized plate I could talk about, but I'm going to save that for the future because I don't know where that photo is right now. And I know do more digging at the time or at this time, but I will say that I do have a lot more topics for recurring segments, including the license to podcast, which is the personalized plate that I see and take a picture of when I'm out on the street or in a parking lot or something like that. And abusive language. I do have a couple of those that I have noted here, but I'm going to save them for the future podcast. Because I think some of the chapters are going to be shorter. Not that this wasn't um, not that this wasn't a long chapter, but my long story about Bank of America got us to the 50-minute mark, and I think that's going to be enough for me today. So I'll get out there and get the dog for a walk. Still, she's doing good. She hasn't been barking or crying or anything. She's like a caged animal in a zoo, though. She's just like pacing back and forth around the yard. It's kind of weird. I would think that if I was a dog, I'd just be laying down, taking it easy. Because usually she doesn't get to do anything. She's usually locked in a little kennel all day. And now she's enjoying the big yard. I guess maybe that's part of it, but she's going to be taken for another walk. We'll probably go a couple miles this afternoon and try to get her tired out so she can sleep through the night, not bother me crying and whining at night. So anyway, that's it. And, you know what I say? I say, be assertive, be positive, be proactive. And I did have a kind of a negative downer story there with Bank of America today. And I don't want that to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. So I'm telling you, be proactive, be a glass half full person. I'm trying to be that way myself. So I emphasize that. Be positive. Be proactive, be assertive. And maybe that'll, raise your attitude and have a better attitude. We won't be doomed, as I was talking about earlier, as we're plagued by homelessness here in Santa Fe. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to try to do something about it. Somehow I can have a good impact on that. But anyway, I leave you with that. Be assertive, be positive, be proactive. And as always, we don't say goodbye. We just say, see you later, see you next time, and knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and you shall be given. That's it. That's it for this episode of the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I'm your host, Greg Heitmann, and salute you and see you later.